biased, it's probably just current courts. Nobody was like, oh wow, it's just a bunch of liberals. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still just think it's just better for the country if he's like, if there's a vote and he loses.
Well, they won't accept the results of the vote either way.
Another fair point.
Legally, finally stated by the highest court. Yeah, maybe this motherfucker did kind of foment insurrection, and he didn't have any reason on any factual or evidentiary reason to believe that the election was going to be stolen, but he said that from the beginning and just kept saying the big lie over and over, and caused this whole scene like it was bad, and asking Pence to overthrow the election and the Georgia call and all this stuff. Like, how can you look at all of the evidence and say that they didn't know what they're doing? Like,
That's not,
yeah. So they'll have to answer to history, and their legacies will be tarnished forever, and it will be only, known as they were Trump shills, and America will last far longer than that fat fuck, like, he won't destroy it at all. Like, I'm not worried about that. Like,
So
you can't get hysterical about one person. Like, it's never that bad. Certainly could be bad, but
the great experiment is over. He failed.
I guess my concern is we've already seen some violence. So like I kind of focus on terms of like what's the best course of action to avoid further violence and close on Earth. Is it?
Yeah, but that line's been crossed. Like it really is appeasement argument at this point. It's just like Ukraine. It's really just like Ukraine. Like I in a certain sense, there's a parallelism for me at least, where like, okay, like you've literally crossed the line, so like it's kind of all bets are off with you. Like the correct course of action is to remove Trump from any political power as soon as possible. Like with the tools at our disposal that are legitimate, not assassinating him for God's sakes, not lynching him, but like having the highest court in the land say like, yeah, that wasn't okay. Like that wasn't okay.
You can't do that.
You're bullshit. Like you can't do that. Like
I agree.
That's the line, and you crossed it. You really crossed it, and that can't happen again. It's so bad for democracy. It's so bad for the whole project of America and for like the peaceful transition of power and all of that. And like fuck him. Like he violated that so hard. Like that truly is an unforgivable sin to the system. Like, and it should be, and they should know that. I hope they know that. And
Yeah, appeasement angle is always an interesting one to invoke. If the UK and France had gotten involved when it was Austria, does it all happen? Very tough to say. Was that
of right, could it have gone any other way either? Like, were any of those powers really ready to, interject? Like, come on, like, yeah, revisionist histories and what if, especially about World War II, are kind of tired, like, and meaningless. But it's fun to think about. It's fun to think about, but
I have changed my mind as I've gotten older on the nuclear weapons. Like, I think when I was younger, I would have just said like, obviously, bombs. Duh, like better than an amphibious landing. But as I've gotten older, it's like, man, like, I mean, there's a reason we haven't done it again, like.
Yeah, but imagine if we had never used it. What was the probability we used it in Korea or Vietnam, which would have been
there's
far worse?
An argument for the first one. The second one kind of is.
There wasn't a lot of thought put into the second one. We were on a time crunch.
The second one, it's hard to really categorize it as anything other than just a massive crime in human history. It's like you know, the first one, like, you send a fucking message, like, and the Japanese did everything in their power to earn such treatment through their course of the war, not only with their dealings with us, but with the Chinese,
Yeah.
Koreans, like, you know, they certainly were not a sympathetic.
They
Yeah,
were
that's smart.
systemically war criminals who participated in whose treatment of their POWs was abhorrent across the board. So
Worse
like
than the Germans, really.
literally worse. Literally worse. They were horrific. They were absolutely ruthless and
Inhumane.
inhumane. Fundamentally inhumane at every level of the organization that was the Imperial Japanese Army. So like I really, you know, we were done playing games, and they sucker punched us with Pearl Harbor, you know,
Yeah.
and motherfucker, you know, declares
Yeah,
war
I
before
still
the.
think they needed more time to really assess the first one. That's always my take. Like,
Mm.
It was 2 weeks.
I
wasn't
think
it? Or
that's
was it?
I think
like
that's reasonable.
4 or 5 days. I can't remember. It was a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
Certainly,
I mean,
like let them go take some pictures, take the train
No.
down.
I've always
Really,
thought a
really
great way to explain the fanaticism of the Japanese in World War II, beyond like suicide bombings or like the dive bomber, like suicide bombers and committing seppuku, is the fact that they got fucking nuked and didn't surrender.
But I guess my issue, back to your original invocation of appeasement, my issue with that logic, and it's like a perfectly valid line of thinking, it's just that you can kind of take that all the way with any sort of like negative situation in the world. Like you can invoke appeasement and justify anything. It's like, oh well, you know, if we don't stop them now. Like you remember Hitler. And
yeah,
like
that's fair.
you kind of just do that and
So
apply it
easy to invoke
everything.
Hitler or the Nazis and relate it to anything. You know, make an argument. I totally get that.
Well, did you know that Hitler was bad?
Yeah, but at the same time, you know,
If you didn't
at
learn that part.
the geopolitics level, like the same ethics are not necessarily, you know, optimal strategy, and straight up, you know, especially with the nukes. I mean, they had every opportunity to surrender, and you know, they worried about their stupid little emperor. You know, like shut the fuck up, like fuck that guy, and fuck Tojo, and
They wanted the
these war
schmuck.
criminals. Like they.
We also had them to the point though where we could just squeeze them indefinitely, like Israel and Gaza, only an even better situation. It's an actual island. The Navy had been destroyed, the Imperial Navy was destroyed, so there's really no like way in or out of the island. Like you can blockade it, and wait until they say uncle. Like there's a lot of different approaches you could have taken other than nuking them and I think the Chinese were in a hurry to get it. Well, and we were in a hurry to resolve it because the Russians were involved. I believe that was the big rationale, wasn't it? That the Russians
Also,
like,
had a
we
nuke.
split. We didn't want to split Japan with Russia, and
For China.
yeah, and they were getting in, like they were like gearing up. Like the Soviets were, you know, transporting troops east and like getting ready to support us in the effort and share this. And
Right. Because there was that whole race to take Berlin, which they beat us to. So it was pertinent that we, at the very least, you know, do our part in the East and bring Japan
Peace to
its
the
knees,
East.
You know.
America brought peace to the East.
We were done waiting, you know.
Are you
and
familiar
everyone
with
was done.
the initial like dispute between the Japanese and the U.S. and like what led to the war to begin with between us and them?
We cut off their oil supply or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were bombing Britain, who we apparently were friends with. That's
They were bombing colonies of the European powers. Was that it? They like seized a bunch of them. Is that right? Something to that effect.
that sounds
But like,
right.
what do you think about the initial logic of the embargo of Japan? Like in hindsight, you know, Monday morning quarterback that one.
FDR, a great politician as always, he knew that it would be inevitable that America would need to get into the war. His good friend Winston Churchill told him that as often as he possibly could, and he knew. And he knew politically it was not going to be fun to convince America to join the European war. So provoking the Japanese and getting us into that front, I mean, even if it's a completely different front, like we declared war on Germany the next day, and like we had the Pacific Theater for sure, like going on at the same time, but really, the first mission and the most important was orchestrating D-Day and like protecting Britain and getting into that fight, and it was FDR was completely willing to fuck with Japan enough to get them to declare war on us. Like he probably didn't expect an attack, but hopefully they would declare war so that we would have the right of defending ourselves rather than just jumping in. That's how it's always been explained to me, that it was knowingly provocative, and FDR was glad to do it because he knew it was inevitable and it was probably about time. I mean, end of 41, you know, I mean, it's been going on for a couple years already, and like, if we weren't gearing up in 1942, like, you know, how long could it have gone, and where would the Germans have been in a year and a half, you know, if they had been allowed to milk all of their conquered territories? Like, I'm not saying they would have won, but they sure would have had
It would have been a hell of a lot closer.
Could have been. It could have been. You know, I don't know what it would have been, but it could have been. And it's a scary thought, you know, and the cost could have been exponentially higher. They could have been 50% higher. Like, who knows? Like, it could have gone on for years more, and Europe could have been completely reshaped. China and Asia could have been completely reshaped. Like, I mean, a couple more years of Japanese rule and the Philippines and China, I mean, Lord knows, like, who knows what the fuck would have gone on there. Like, they were crazy, dude. They were fucking crazy. They crossed the line. And they had to be taken out. And hairy-ass motherfucking Truman, he was not fucking around. Small-town motherfucking judge. And, you know, advocate for the working class.
Missouri,
Something like that, yeah, one of those Midwest country lawyer, or judge.
Harry Truman.
Yeah, it's still my major complaint about Oppenheimer, is they made Truman look like a sadist, and
Well, he was a dick to our boy.
I really don't agree.
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri boy. I really don't think that's fair, like.
Isn't he white though?
He is pretty white, but
doesn't he?
he's not a sociopath. He knew it. He knew what was at stake. I believe FDR changed his VP every term, if I'm not mistaken, because he didn't want to have a replacement. You know, he wanted someone, a yes man. You know, someone who was just acceptable and kind of beneath him. You know, not threatening, not. Truman certainly fit that. Like, nobody knew who the fuck this guy is. Like,
Wyatt was offering some very funny takes on the way America romanticizes the Revolutionary War.
Oh, that's interesting. We don't even think about nobody knows about the Revolutionary War. Nobody thinks about that.
Yeah.
What did he say though? I'd love to know.
It was something to the effect of, you know, how like.
Oh, we kicked their asses.
How
the
we
French
like.
saved us.
How we're so quick to like.
Emperor George, our Lord and Savior.
There was nothing inherently legitimate about the uprising or conflict, you know. But
Oh,
it's
that's.
portrayed. but it's portrayed as some sort of like, you know, like freedom fighters, blah blah blah. He's like,
Freedom fighters are never legitimate.
and he is pointing out that like quite a few of the quote unquote Americans were not in support of
Oh my
the
god.
revolution.
He's a fucking redcoat. He's a fucking redcoat. dude.
Royalists for sure.
He's a goddamn royalist. Get him the fuck out of here.
Did
Never
you
been so
expect
disgusted in
anything
my life.
less? He's a New Zealander, dude. Another one of the fucking colonies.
Jesus Christ.
Didn't even kick the yoke, dude.
Yeah, they're still part of that Commonwealth shit.
Oh my god. Biggest scam. Biggest scam. Monarchies like, oh, you have no legitimacy to question the monarchy that's taxing you from across the fucking 1,500-mile ocean. Like,
It's a fun no war.
Against
your
you.
war against the goddamn French. Like, suck my ass. Like,
And the Indians, dude.
You
How the
didn't
fuck
build
did
shit.
the French get the
yeah,
Indians to
and
help
they didn't
them?
even kill the Indians for us. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then we had to go do that shit ourselves.
We had to do all that shit
Oh my
ourselves.
God.
Like,
Useless.
A lot of
Fucking
work.
useless.
motherfucker.
Yeah, that's the other one I've evolved on is George
Friendship
Washington. George Washington, really effective military leader. I wouldn't have said that when I was younger. The more I've learned, like,
Yeah.
honestly, pretty fucking impressive because like they really didn't win any battles, and he knew they couldn't win any battles, but he still had to keep morale high enough that the army was like a fighting cohesive unit and didn't just disband and give up, which is one of the hardest things to do. Like, it's like,
You
hey
have no
guys,
shot when you have like no shot. Yeah.
yeah, you just had to like stay alive long enough that it became too expensive for the British, and then the French showed up at the crucial moment with a blockade, and you know they were stuck at Corn, whatever the fuck that place is called, and
Get wrecked.
yeah, it was just a one crucial victory. Like they basically only won 2 battles the whole war. But yeah,
We got
like,
Cornwallis to sign some shit. It's like, I guess it's legitimate now. And like, really? We got you. We checkmate.
Yep.
Checkmate. Brit bag.
yeah, so that was really well played. And then Grant, one of the most overrated. I mean, he just like
Wow.
understood math, you know, not a bad general, but not a bad
Wasn't a
general.
complete coward and traitor. Like,
Sure, yeah, that's all true, but no like incredible like strategy explaining. It's like,
He just what
He did the job.
wasn't
He did the job
terrible. All the other ones
He
were
did.
just fucking awful.
yeah, completely incompetent versus like, you know, baseline like could do his job.
fuck
Yeah.
McClellan. Fuck George McClellan.
McClellan was terrible. Was he the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
dude,
the
that,
one who waited forever.
I mean, dude, like the capital of the Confederacy was like a couple miles away, and we couldn't end the war. Like that's how incompetent these people were. It's like,
He's a traitor. He is a Southern sympathizer. He didn't want to win.
you think is
Hey.
that what?
Should have been hanged for
Happened?
treason.
Is that what happened?
Low key. Low key.
Interesting.
Low key. He had the army ready, and he was like, "Oh, we don't have enough people. Like, we're gonna need more. Like,
I'm
he,
gonna
like,
need
let
another
them-
army.
He let them. Yeah, he let the Confederacy like have time to like build. And yeah, like Richmond was like, fucking whatever was right there. Like,
It's like 15
insane.
miles from DC.
they
Ridiculous.
just sat there, and Lincoln's going absolutely insane. Like, this guy everyone told me to pick, who everyone likes, is not fucking doing anything. And he was like, yeah, he's so great. He's not making us
Conviction
fight.
would
Like,
probably
we
be
don't have to
upset. He's like,
fight."
he's not doing anything. Ah!
Yeah, I can't remember all their names. There's another Mc something too, isn't there? McClernandon.
McGovern? I don't know. Something like that.
McGovern, yeah, maybe right.
Fucking losers, dude. All these
Bunch of-
you can't trust Irish people. to get a
Hooker.
job done.
Hooker,
Hooker.
another idiot. Yeah, like was it I can't remember. It might have been after Gettysburg or in Cheatham, one of them, where Lee's army was stuck on one side of the river because it was like flooding or some shit, and they just let him go. Like they were they routed him, completely trapped. and
My
I'm like,
boys
"Oh."
are tired. Let's head back in after this victory. Like, we've shed enough blood today. We could end the Confederacy tonight, but I think it'll be best if we.
But I'm a little tired, so how about tomorrow? Bright and early, we'll go end the Confederacy.
Can't tolerate traitors, man.
No. They have to be put to the sword, or it'll never work.
Oh yeah, Wyatt was trying to give me some whataboutism about the Charlottesville thing.
Charlottesville.
Yes, do you remember when
Guy that
Trump...
ran over those people with his car?
Yeah, there's a rally. 'Cause
The
people were
tiki
upset
people?
They were upset that they were getting rid of Robert E. Lee's statue. And
Robert E. Lee statue defender. No, not my wife, please, God, no. Oh my God.
I mean, to be fair, he didn't really understand the broader context, I don't think. And he changed his mind when we had a big discussion about it. Yeah, he, you know, I was talking to him, I was like, you know, the majority of these Confederate monuments were erected in the 60s and 70s during the Civil Rights Movement. Like, it's not like they just arose, like, right after the war, and they're like, oh, we just want to honor the dead and the leaders, blah, blah, blah. It was like almost an explicit fuck you. And then people are still crying about it now. And it's like, well, I mean, I don't mind you having them in museums or something, but do we really need to honor these people who fought against our country? I don't understand. You know, and people did the same thing when we were renaming all the military bases. Like, I think 2 of the 3 bases I was stationed at were named after Confederates at the time I was there. They've since changed, but yeah, that always blew my mind. And then people were like, oh, it's just political correctness. They fought against the Union. Like, what do you want from them? Like, and they weren't even particularly good generals. Like you know, like they didn't even pick the good Confederate generals. It was like losers, like nobodies. Hood, Benning, like idiots, dude.
Right.